Most people who are interested in Himalayan and Tibetan art are very familiar with certain sites, or if they've not been to the Kathmandu Valley, then they're aware of some of the more important archaeological sites and pilgrimage locations. Now, one of the most important places, of which there are several in Kathmandu, is the Great Stupa of Boudhanath. So what I want to talk about is the publication, a recent publication, and it's a reprint with updating by Keith Dowman. And I think it was first published, I think I first read it in 1973. It was a Dharma publishing book out of I think Berkeley, California. And so the title here is The Great Stupa of Boudhanath, the Tibetan Legend of the Great Stupa, translated with an introduction. And that's by Keith Dowman. And the one I'm referring to right now is by Robin Books. And I think it was reprinted in 2002, and then I think it was this version is reprinted in 2017. But it has a lot of sections which I had not seen. I think they weren't written at the time, back in 1973. So the contents, what we're looking at is, well, we're looking at two things. We're looking at a kind of a discussion and explanation of this stupa structure, I think the largest in Kathmandu. And then we're looking at a translation of a Tibetan text, which is a terma, revealed treasure text, which talks about really the mythology of how it was built. And this Tibetan text is coming out of the Nyingma school, and it's from the late 15th, early 16th, or late 14th, early 15th century. I think it's Ngakchang Shakyazangpo, I think is the name of the Nyingma Terten. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that, because that actually is the original text that Keith Dowman translated back in I believe 73. No, what to me is really more important is all the first part of the publication, which is half. It's not a very large book, but so the contents are divided up into different sections, and the first is the myth and legend. And the myth and legend is just really talking about the differences between the Newars and the different groups and the Tibetans, and how we begin to look at this topic of Boudhanath Stupa. The second is about as one of the 8 great cremation grounds, or charnel grounds, and these are the 8 great charnel grounds that surround the mandala of certain tantric Buddhist deities, and prior to that, of course, of the Rudra, the Bhairava, related to Shiva. But we're looking at the 8 great charnel grounds, and this particular location is related to one of the charnel grounds, which has a name which I believe corresponds with the Chakrasambhara Tantra, although there's a number of different sets of names of the 8 great charnel grounds, depending on what early Sanskrit texts you're reading, and whether it's Hebadra or Chakrasambhara or Kala Chakra. The third is the history of Boudhanath, and to me this is really the most fascinating part, because it's really looking at what is the earliest textual references, and who actually built it, when was it built, how was it built, when it was first built, does it look the way it looks now? So there's a lot of really key information in there. Now, Keith doesn't give a lot of his sources for this information, but I'm taking him on his word because he's been working on this topic since the early 70s, if not the late 60s. The next section is symbolism of the stupa, followed by description of the site, and then what are the major methods of worship at the site, morning, afternoon, and whatnot, and then what are the main festivals, the seasonal and yearly festivals. And this is followed by monasteries around the stupa. Now, I'm really only aware of, I think, 4. There's the Sokpo Lama, the Gelugpa Monastery, this Dabzang Rinpoche, and then there's Chini Lama, the organizer, the governing body for the Boudhanath Stupa, and then most recently the Chokye tree of the Sakya Tsarpa tradition. Now Keith does not go in and talk about the surrounding monasteries. He's talking about the inner circle that actually just face the Boudhanath Stupa. So that was really a lot of fun. And I had forgotten about some of the early history of the Sokpo Lama because he's really quite famous and extremely controversial. Then we have just an introduction to about the Tibetan text, the legend of the Great Stupa, and then that's followed by the translation. So this is really quite a wonderful little book with a tremendous amount of really fascinating early history and some references without too much detail or direction, but about the early inscriptions and how early was Boudhanath mentioned in stone inscriptions or in Newar history books. So we'll leave it at that. The Great Stupa of Boudhanath by Keith Dowman, and I really highly recommend this if you're interested in the Kathmandu Valley, if you're interested in art and archaeology relating to also Tibetan history, and Padmasambhava as well. So you can press the like button, you can subscribe, you can join HAR on Patreon, and you can also make a donation on the homepage of Himalayan Art Resources.